This is Rudy Giuliani with the Rudy Giuliani Show, and thank you for tuning into us. We've got a lot of breaking news and news that you're probably not going to get somewhere else. Let's start with I don't know. It's hard to say this is his biggest con job, and he's so inarticulate and so clumsy. It's hard to even think of him as a con man because they're usually like smooth and not. Usually people don't fall for that. Somehow there are enough brainwashed people that they fall for the Biden crap. But this thing is really crazy what he's doing. Well, I mean, it really is out of Orwell. You just get to call it what you want, even though it's totally untrue. As I said, the Ministry of War in Orwell's 1984 is the Ministry of Peace, where they make war in the other three continents. But they call it the Ministry of Peace. So this is, he's going to close down the border, except more people will come in illegally than at any time other than in his administration. In other words, more people will come in than under any president before him. I know. So how is he closing it down? That's just a straight out and out lie. He's trying to appeal to both sides. He wants to say to all those people, or 67%, 70%, who say that border control is very important to them and their communities are getting beaten like crazy. He wants to say, I'm going to, shut down the border. But then he wants to be able to turn, behind to his left-wing open border crazies and say, don't worry, it's just a not even a slowdown, really. You're doing better by 3 or 4 times than you did on any other president, including Obama. And why does that happen? That happens because I've never heard of a border control policy that lets people in illegally. I mean, the idea is you stop them from coming in. So in the last year of Trump, there were around, depending on the numbers you use, at the border, somewhere between 400,000 and 600,000. In the last year of Biden, there were 3.2 million. So that's a different universe, correct? So he says that he's going to stop people from coming in when it turns out to be more than 2,500 per day for a week. So if they stay at 2,500 per day, then you can figure they're going to have, we'll have, 600,000-700,000 coming in that way. But he also has the CBE1 program. This is a program that he unveiled with similar lies last year with Mayorkas. This was a plan that was really going to control asylum because people were going to apply online. It was going to be sort of like the Remain in Mexico program, except it wasn't like the Remain in Mexico program because they didn't remain anywhere. How did he get away with this? So, in fact, I don't know how many came in that way this year. 400,000, 500,000 more paroled, not showing up for a hearing for 5 years. Just say parole. You don't test it. Or you just say asylum and you're paroled. And then he's got the special parole programs where he brings people in directly if they want to pay for it. So if you'd like to take a look at the chart over here, it sort of lays it out. I think you'll be able to see it. Let's see. Can they see my little chart? You know how I love charts, right? And today we're going to use a map today too. I'm really excited. Ted doesn't look excited, but I am. Ted would only be excited if I won't say what. But since he's been on the air, I've had to take him off because he's creating quite a stir. I mean, people say, "Oh, are you jealous, Steve?" No, I want him to get attention. But man, bring our ratings up. But I mean, he's getting offers of dates and marriage. And he is not married, by the way. So you see that first number right there, right? That's the number left in, let in annually from using the CBP1 app, which allows migrants to apply online for an appointment. So they go online, they apply for an appointment, they get it right away. We don't want to keep the illegals waiting to come in illegally. That's why we cut the questions down for the Chinese to 4, because the Chinese were complaining to the guy they employ, Biden, that it was taking too long. So we cut the questions down from whatever they were, 20, 30, 40, 50, to 4. How can you even in good faith vet anybody with 4 questions? He's not vetting anybody. The guy that he brings in and sends to New York and puts in the Roosevelt Hotel, he could be right out of a nut house. We don't know. We don't know if he's out of a nut house or he's a priest. Well, we're pretty sure he's not a priest. So you get 529,250 will come in illegally. This is an illegal entry because they are making a claim of asylum, but they're not proving it. And then there would be 902,500 if they stay at the 2,500 every day. Okay, so that number right there, 902,500, is higher than all, but just that, just the 902,500, is higher than any year before him but one, maybe 2. The head of Homeland Security under Obama, when they hit 100,000, said it was a catastrophe. Both of these methods that he is allowing, he's actually, what he's doing, it's like a shell game. What he's doing is he's telling you he's controlling the border and he is regularizing illegal entry. He's just getting you used to it. So, and remember, we're piling these people on top of bare minimum about 12 million that came in illegally in these different categories. And that doesn't count the people we never saw. That's pretty much the people that we stopped and the gotaways. And the final number is about 1.8 million. You see right there, 1.8 million. That's the final number that would come in illegally, which we would turn our back on. So he is basically setting forth an executive order to break the law. What's unusual? I mean, usually when he does this, he gets paid for it. So I don't know, maybe China's giving him something for it. I don't know. I wouldn't put anything past this guy or his son, as we can see in court. So now, if you want to look at what he's done to us, and you want to take a look at the numbers, it's right there. Let me make that a little straighter. Is that better?
Yeah.
So there's where we are at the end of last year, his last full year in office, 3.2 million. You go down to 2020, that's where we were under Trump. Okay. And as you can see, that's about where we were under Biden, under Obama as well. Trump had like an increase until he got control of it, and then he took it down. And every indication was going to go down further. Since he's been in office, it's gone. Everyone has been a record level, higher than any Trump number, higher than any Biden number, higher than any Bush number, higher than any Clinton number, higher than any Reagan number. Each one has been a record, starting in his first year, which you'll see was about 2 million, and then 2.5, 2.7, and then 3.2. And he wants to level it off at 1.8, which would be higher than anything on this chart under prior presidents. And I assure you, if you go back to the presidents before Trump, back to Reagan, you don't get anything like that. So this is a disaster of a program put forward by a guy who is an advocate of open borders, and he's going to keep them open, giving you the impression that he's not. We'll be right back, and we will catch you up with what's going on in Delaware. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. That was Rudy Giuliani live. Well, the president's son, Hunter Biden, is on trial for the least they could try him for. The trial in and of itself is an indication of a two-tiered system of justice. Nobody else would have been let out of the major felonies, even the major amount of money that was involved. When you consider that he's not being tried for the $8 to $12 million worth of bribes in Ukraine, the $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife, the $1.5 billion investment with the Chinese government in a private equity fund with Whitey Bulger's nephew, nor is he being tried for the $31 million that he got and distributed to his family from the Red Chinese between about 16 to 19. All of that has been, well, some of it has been time barred because Weiss just sat on it. I mean, Weiss was ready to let him walk, and he and Abby Lowell turned down the deal. I mean, it may be they know something about a hometown jury that we don't know. Professor Turley today has an article, and he's been pretty much right on a lot of these, saying this could be a jury nullification case. Jury nullification is a legal term. It means that the person is guilty, but the jury decides for reasons extraneous to the law that the person shouldn't be convicted. Here it would be feeling sorry for him because he's an addict, or feeling an affinity for the Bidens, or feeling a hatred of Trump, whatever. I don't know if that's the case. I haven't seen the jury enough. I don't know the jury enough. All I can do is tell you the evidence that's coming in, and the evidence is ironclad. I mean, the charge is simple. I mean, the charge is that when he put down the answer no to whether he's an addict or he uses marijuana or other controlled substances, the answer to that was yes. His lawyer is arguing that in order for that to be false, he has to be using drugs that day. That's, of course, ridiculous. We don't want to protect ourselves just from somebody who uses drugs that day when he buys a gun. We want to protect ourselves against somebody who's going to use drugs a lot and carry the gun around. So if he doesn't use drugs that day, but he does the next day or the day before, of course it violates the statute with regard to using drugs. But beyond that, it also says addict, and he was an addict. There's no question about it. And I think that's what the testimony of his wife, his girlfriends, and his sister-in-law is going to show. The first witness was a woman named Zoe Keston. And she met him at a Manhattan strip club in late 2017. So going into the year that's in question, 2018, she basically said that he used to use crack every 20 minutes or so. that he was a prolific user and didn't seem all that affected by it. He was cognizant and coherent. I remember thinking to myself that there was no change in his behavior, which is unusual for the amount that she says he was using. She spoke of multiple night hotel stays, trips to Atlantic City, nightclubs, dinners, and drug dealers that he introduced her to. And then she included in her testimony highly personal photos, including a photo of her and Hunter in a bathtub together in California with a crack pipe in their hands. I don't know if they're going to put it, and they better, the pictures of him smoking a crack pipe while driving an automobile right around the time that he bought the gun, which tells you how irresponsible he is. And although the statute doesn't make a distinction between minor drug use and major drug use, or if there is such a thing as responsible drug use and irresponsible drug use, he certainly would be on the outer categories of both. He was a degenerate, massive drug user, and he was highly irresponsible in the use of it. He's just the kind of person you would not want to have a gun as a drug addict. And he definitely was an addict, and he had been an addict at least from the time he was kicked out of the military. So, I mean, she established the fact that he was a massive user of cocaine and crack. And then she showed pictures of hotel rooms that had crack pipes all over the hotel room. And of course, there are pictures of him with crack pipes all over his house. There are pictures of him smoking large amounts of crack in his house, such that it would blur. He'd like be in a cloud. And what was that irresponsible? That was very irresponsible because there were minor children in the house, which gives you an idea that this guy, if there is such a thing as a responsible drug user, somebody who uses it with minor children in the house certainly doesn't fit that category, or one that is smoking it while using pot, while driving an automobile, is smoking crack. His ex-wife, Kathleen, I think it's pronounced Bewley, testified. She said she never actually saw him smoke or take drugs. And then the prosecutor asked her, well, how do you know he used drugs? Well, first time he went to rehab was in 2003. And she says she really became aware of it when she discovered an empty crack pipe in an ashtray on their side porch the day after their anniversary in 2015. Now, 2015 is a year after he was kicked out of the military for failing a test on cocaine. Now, you got to think of what a serious drug addict he was. His father pulled all kinds of strings to get him in because he was overage to get into the military. He was beyond 40, I think, and had no special skill. He worked in the public relations office, but he just wanted to have a uniform like his brother did. Didn't want to do any heavy lifting, but just wanted to have a uniform. Well, the father used his position, I'm sure, there's no doubt about it, to get a fix like they did all the time to get him in. And obviously, you'd think he'd control himself a little bit, not to embarrass the vice president. Well, I think the first or second drug test, he blew it big time. So the vice president's son gets revealed as a cocaine user and addict. And by that time, he had already been in and out of rehab a couple of times. So she says it was in 2015, a year after he got kicked out of the Navy, in 2014 for testing positive for cocaine. And ever since, she's been worried and very, very scared. And he would, during a pretty continuous period, he would continue to abuse drugs. She would know because her testimony is slightly different than the woman that he met in the strip club. She says that when he was on cocaine, he was not himself. He was angry. He was short-tempered. and he wouldn't act. He would act differently than when he wasn't on either drugs or alcohol. That it did affect his behavior. Well, we'll be right back, and we'll conclude this, and we'll take a look at what's going on with the ceasefire, where Biden is really putting the knife in the back of Israel and trying to help Iran. And I've always been perplexed as to why he and Obama are so dedicated to Iran.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
I might get into it, though. Welcome back to the Rudy Giuliani show. So let's complete the wife's testimony. By the way, his present wife is quite a character, isn't she? Yesterday, she cursed out calling somebody a Nazi shit in the courtroom. Melissa Cohen Biden. Sounds like she fits right in, by the way. Very, very comfortable, I'm sure, in a family where, if you listen to these tapes, they're a disgusting, perverted group. Not all of them, but the key ones. And the Biden crime family is well represented at the trial. I understand James, who's like a middle-level capo, I think he's going to testify. Be interesting. I just don't know how all out the prosecution's going to go to prove its case. We'll see. I'm going to show you what they could add to this that would certainly help convince the jury that this is not some poor, sympathetic little drug addict and we should worry about him. We should be worried about the people he could have killed when he was driving that automobile. That's who we should be worried about. And we should realize that if you have any belief at all in some kind of responsible balance between the right to bear arms and some protection for society, I mean, most people agree that criminals and drug addicts and the people who are mentally gonzo, right, like the ones who go in and kill all those kids, shouldn't have guns. So if you believe it, you got to enforce it even against a guy in the Golden Circle. Just because he's Biden's son doesn't mean. I mean, this, as I said, this is not a marginal drug addict. What did Kirsten say? She said he used it every 20 minutes. And his wife would go check the car out and find paraphernalia in the car and take it out of the car when his children were going to use the car to try to protect them against him. This didn't happen, by the way, when he was living with his sister-in-law, as you will see, because he did a pretty good job to really endanger those children, and nobody did anything about it. She said that, as I said, he was not himself, she said, as with her words. She was angry and short-tempered when he was using crack cocaine. She said she would find drug remnants in little bags and drug paraphernalia all over the place, a broken crack pipe. And when she would search the car, she would find drug paraphernalia and remove it. She also said that he frequently he didn't mind interacting with friends and family, and often under the influence, and would just hide it from them. So he was able to function, or at least to some extent he was able to function. But she does say that it was drugs and alcohol that destroyed their family life and destroyed their family and destroyed their marriage. So this was a long-term addiction to cocaine every 20 minutes. And if you look at the hard drive, you'll see more than, I don't know how many using drugs, 50, 60. And as I said, a highly irresponsible use of drugs, such that the therapist of one of his nieces that he lived with recommended that he not be around the children because, according to, if you want to put it on, his niece had said that he was sexually inappropriate with her. And she told the therapist, do we have that on, Ted? This is the one that should be put in to show that this is not if they're going to do a jury nullification, let them nullify this. Maybe they don't give a damn about the kid like Joe didn't give a damn about the kid. This is Joe to his father. About in 2018. I'll get you the exact date. She was talking about his niece and Joe's granddaughter, who was about 14 or 15. She told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate with her.
When Hunter to his father.
Hunter to his father, but the person who's the she is the niece. She told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate with her when she says that I FaceTime naked with her. And the reason I can't have her out to see me is because I'll walk around naked, smoking crack, talking tom girls on FaceTime. I assume tom girls means prostitutes. When she was pressed, she said that she never said anything like that. But the bottom line is that I create and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids. Well, the reason that that she did tell the psychiatrist is that all of this is corroborated by photos. You could lay out photos that show you him doing just about all of that, or recordings even of some of the conversations with the prostitutes. Just a mere fact, when you see that smoke in the house that minor children live in, you realize that this is a guy that's endangering children. And he does, after he dismisses the charges, he kind of brings them back almost like a guilty confession. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if you look at the last 3 lines, I think there's a lot to that. The bottom line is that I create and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids. I think he was expecting his father to do something about it to protect the kids. Well, he didn't want any problem for his political career, so Joe didn't do a damn thing. Just like he didn't do a damn thing about the guy's drug addiction. When you consider that you go back to 2003 when he first went to rehab, and his father made him a bag man doing business with some of the most crooked and dangerous people in the world. You do that to a son that has this kind of weakness, you want to kill the guy. I know mafia guys that wouldn't do that to their sons. The wrong guy's on trial in some ways. I mean, he deserves to be on trial because it really was dangerous what he did. Given the fact that even the mere fact that he could pull it off doesn't mean he really had his senses. Remember, how many times did he lose a computer? I think 3 or 4. That's a guy that's living in another world. That computer is the hard drive is the computer is the hard drive. It's like putting a noose around your neck and your father's. If we had anything like a fair press, and this came out in 2020 when it should have, the guy would have gotten 2 votes. I mean, what the hard drive illustrates is he's the most crooked man that anywhere near the White House. And we're talking about bare minimum $30 to $40 million in bribes. And the really disgusting part of it is the money came from our enemies, including and big bulk of it from the Chinese communists. So, as I said, Jonathan Turley is worried about jury nullification. I'm worried that they're going to hold things back. Like, are you going to see this text? Are you going to see a text that that he was walking around naked, smoking crack in front of children? That sort of indicates a pretty serious drug addict. One of the words in the statement that he denies is, "Are you an addict?" Not just, "Are you using drugs on one day?" That's completely absurd. I don't know what the hell is wrong with his wife, Melissa, but yesterday she said to Garrett Ziegler, who works for Marco Polo or owns Marco Polo. I'm not sure, Ted, does he work for or own it? Marco Polo is a website, and it's a right-wing website, like there are left-wing websites, and it's pretty tough on Trump. And it put out the hard drive when it got it, and of course they were excoriated, like I was, for putting out Russian disinformation and da da da. And it turns out that it's 100% true. I wonder if this creep is going to dismiss his lawsuit against me and Bob Costello, and maybe the president too. For I think part of it is that I think I hacked it. Say that'd be interesting. You think I could hack something? I wouldn't know how to
look. Yeah, I mean, I know we know what you're trying to demonstrate here, but I will. Yeah, hacking may be a little bit beyond. I certainly couldn't hack the computer, but I don't want to take, at the same time, I don't want to take away your skills and your technical abilities. You're not a doddering old man.
No, I'm not
like
I'd be willing to put out my hair tape if I had.
So here's the thing, and I know this is off. If you read about it in all, over a few hours, you could,
probably could figure it out.
That's beside the
Joe
point.
Could probably figure it out.
But they
you go on and you press 2, and then you press 1, and then you press 2 again.
Doesn't he have to drop the lawsuit? It's just admitted in court as evidence, and it's.
Now I forgot all the allegations in it, but they're basically that the hard drive was that we made it up.
Asserting that it's fake.
We made it up, that we doctored it. The FBI agent testified that the FBI is quite confident there have been no alterations in it. That's pretty good backup, huh? I mean, I got vindicated about a year ago after 16 or 17 months of being attacked as a Russian agent. Even the New York Times kind of apologized on page 1,402 in the wanted section, near the bottom, and the Washington Post too. But they never gave back their Pulitzer Prizes. I mean, this is the group that pushed Russian collusion, which in fact was a Hillary Clinton crime, because she paid $1.1 million for that story and then used it to try to unseat a lawfully elected president in what could only be described as an insurrection. I think Hunter better also calm his wife down, and she's got to stop calling people Nazis, pieces of whatever you want to call it. Here's a picture of him. Well, you don't need to see a picture of him with his gun on and this is a no clothes picture that's been doctored up a little, so you don't see him in all his glory, which unfortunately it's all over the place. So he bought this thing, right? He filled out the form saying he wasn't an addict, which he obviously was. And he wasn't a drug user, which he wasn't just a drug user. He was a massive, prolific drug user for years. And then he says he kept it at home and never used. How do we know? How do we know? It was a Colt Cobra 38 caliber revolver. And he bought it at Star Quest Shooters and Survival Supply. And in doing so, he lied And not only that, a drug addict is not supposed to be carrying a gun. That's a separate crime. And his lawyer has argued that the form just asked if the purchaser was a drug user, rather than if the person had formerly or currently used drugs. A drug user that day? That's ridiculous. And it doesn't just say drug user, it says addict. So you just stuff it low. I mean, you're as big a liar as your client. Oh, and the pushy salesman pushed the gun on him. He didn't really want the gun. Poor Hunter. Maybe he was on drugs and he couldn't really function right. But Hunter was not using drugs when he bought the gun. Times before, times after, but not during. He was using it the next day because there's a text the next day to his girlfriend about how he's in a car using crack. He had the gun. He owned the gun at that point. I would say that this case, even just the testimony today, kind of wraps this case up, unless you do get some kind of hometown crooked decision. Well, the White House is covering up and holding back the video of her interview, which is a 2-day interview, in which her comes to the conclusion that Biden is, however you want, he puts it very euphemistically, that Biden is an old man and very sympathetic and can't remember a damn thing. Now, there also are a lot of changes in the transcript and an admission by the White House that they deleted certain things. So the Congress would like to see the actual video, and they're refusing to turn it over. Now, executive privilege is gone because they turned over the transcript. So if you got the transcript, you can see the better evidence. And they certainly have a right to see just exactly how fraudulent were they in the presentation of the transcript. How much did they change it? And how bad was Biden on that tape? There's a sort of sense that I have that her was being euphemistic, trying to be nice about this. But I mean, we've got a country to run here that's being ruined and ripped apart by this degenerate no-brain. We have a right to know how bad it is. They don't have a right to keep that hidden, not after having put out the transcript and screwed around with it. And you got to know it's really pretty bad, or they wouldn't be fighting like this, right? I mean, if this thing showed Joe, like he was Albert Einstein, you wouldn't have a problem. This has got to be quite interesting. Like he can't remember the year his son died, or he can't remember when he left being vice president by 3 years, or maybe he can't remember his name. How do I know? We'll be back very shortly. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2t.org, T2T.org. Please donate now. Welcome back. There you see coming in my favorite, the map. It's a map of I hope it's a map of Israel, because we're going to talk about the Hamas. Well, there it is. There is Israel. And before we do that, let's get up to date on the fact that on Friday of last week, as a real attempt to try to change the news cycle, because Trump was really gaining a great deal after the verdict, a great deal of empathy, sympathy, and millions of dollars. They decided, and also maybe to pressure Bibi and Hamas, they put out a plan that they said was sponsored by Israel that would be an immediate ceasefire, leading hopefully to a permanent one, and that Israel could be content with that because Hamas was destroyed enough so they couldn't carry out another October 6th. Well, this is about as true as his statement that he doesn't lie a day, right? So this one is about as true, and they're serious, as the plan is a border control plan, when in fact it will let 1.8 million illegals in. This was not agreed to by Israel. In fact, Bibi said it was a no-go, that it was that he couldn't agree to it because it had none of the things in it that they need, which means that they'd be allowed to continue to destroy Hamas. At best, they're halfway there, and that Hamas not be part of the governing structure in any way afterwards. And none of those things were in there, so it's hard to see how this was an Israeli proposal. But in any event, he's got a problem on both sides because Hamas doesn't agree with it, and he got into a real problem because he was asked, and he's given two different answers for it. He was asked whether or not Netanyahu is doing this for political purposes, to stretch out his prime ministership. And he answered with, of course, the usual Biden complete stupidity. I'm not going to comment on that. There's every reason for people to draw that conclusion. Isn't that commenting on it? Isn't that saying yes? Yeah. And then the next day, or maybe later that day, he said, I don't think so. So we have two answers as to whether it was political or not on Bibi's part. It's sure political on his part. It's being driven by his fear that he's going to lose the Islamic extremist vote. And he wants it and needs it, he thinks, to win Michigan. And right now, they seem pretty they seem pretty intent on not voting for him. So this is a purely political play here, so that he can get the war over, and he can mollify the left wing of his party, which includes the Islamic extremists, but also those who support the Islamic extremists, all those people that are protesting for the terrorist group Hamas, which is rather extraordinary that they would do that. But he's here. He's also playing both sides, right? He wants to say he's the biggest supporter of Israel ever, but then don't continue the war Israel, even though I don't know if they've destroyed even half of Hamas. Hamas is down here in this part of Israel. This is Gaza right here. Here's the West Bank. And here's the rest of Israel. Now, at this point, there was an indication today, I think this morning, that they might agree to a limited ceasefire as long as they can resume, as quickly as possible. Iran, Iran probably behind the scenes, but the Hamas people also don't agree with this because they don't want Israel to be able to go back. They want this to be like a real ceasefire, like ceasefire for good. And we'll give you some of your hostages back or all. And the usual method of doing it, 2 Israelis for 5,000 Palestinians. And we don't know how many are. We know that 1/3 or so of the hostages are already dead. So how many dead bodies are they going to get as opposed to live individuals? We don't know. We know there are people that are alive. We know there are people that are dead. But how can you count on these people for an accurate number? And I think there's no doubt that the U.S. wants this stopped, not Israel and not Hamas. Hamas believes that if Israel continues, they're going to continue to create a bad reputation of themselves. Israel believes they don't really give a damn about a reputation of themselves. They want to get rid of the people that want to kill them. And then they can worry about reputation after they're secure. So this is a Biden construction that they're trying to force on people. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with the mayor's final thoughts.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
And welcome back to America's Mayor.
To Rudy Giuliani
Show.
And where I was actually looking at the next story, which is about Caitlin Clark. And before we get into the mayor's final thoughts, Caitlin Clark was the top draft choice of the WNBA, and she's creating quite a stir, pro and con. I don't understand what the con is, but it's there. She got whacked in on the side or the back by a Chicago player named Chennedy Carter, I think her name was. And I don't know if you saw a picture of it, but it's quite a intentional foul. And the reason they're mad at her, that's Caitlin. But the reason they're mad at her is she got a very, very big contract, and she sort of become right away as a rookie the star of the WNBA. And she's drawing very, very big crowds. And she's playing reasonably decent basketball, but nothing like she played in college. But all the experts say this is just a matter of getting used to the pros, that she's going to be dynamite. But instead of seeing this, there's an article today comparing her that she can do for women's basketball what Tiger Woods did for golf. And that when Tiger first came into golf, a lot of people were very jealous of him and gave him a hard time and didn't like him. And then they came to realize he was putting a lot of food on that table. It was taking a value all the way up, and she has the capacity to do that. But they're sure giving her a very hard time, which she is dealing with like a real professional. She basically says this is the thing a rookie has to go through, and I don't care. I just keep myself focused on the game, and if they appreciate me, they do, and if they don't appreciate me, they don't. And just seems to me this is kind of infantile conduct, and hopefully it'll resolve itself because she is a heck of a basketball player. Now, last week and the week before, we had the trial going on, and all through the trial there was a real sense that if Biden could get a conviction, which they really organized for and hoped for and wanted, that they'd be able to do a real job on Trump, going around calling him a convicted this and a convicted that. And of course, Mahatma Gandhi was convicted of a felony too, right? Just think of all the very famous men and women who've gone to prison. Martin Luther King Jr. Well, the polls in the swing states have them just about where they were before the verdict. One set of polls, which is the Florida Atlantic University Public Opinion Research Lab and Main Street Research poll, has Biden winning in Michigan by a point. And I think Trump was winning by half a point before. Trump winning in Pennsylvania by 2. And I think that's what he was winning by before. And Trump winning in Wisconsin by 1, and he was losing in Wisconsin. So basically, they're all within the margin of error, which is where they were before. There's another set of polls in which he's leading in all 3, but by similarly small margins, largely within the margin of error. But he's leading. There hasn't been some really big drop-off in his support, as I thought there wouldn't be, because I think the American people have gotten the message, and I'm very, very happy about that, because we worked very, very hard to try to get this information to you, and when we do, I mean, the only way we can tell is when you have information and make decisions that only come about because you have this information. Like when the hard drive was banned by everyone, and now that turns out it was just a straight piece of bull, right? We went about, and when I say we, I mean myself and my team and Steve Bannon. We went out and we just talked to anybody who would talk to us, and got the information out about the hard drive so that voters would have it before Election Day. And I know it was something like 50% of the voters were aware of it on Election Day and aware that it was incriminating. But not there was no time to really get aware of all the facts, because we were fighting against the momentum of censorship. So we still have to do that. I mean, it's very, very hard to continue to do it, but we will. And that's why I need you to watch us, listen to us, because I'm going to try to get you all this information like we did today, and we will tonight. There'll be more that you're not getting elsewhere, and that you need to be a well-informed voter and to inform other people about what the facts are. We can't rely on NBC or ABC or CBS or the New York Times or the Washington Post, on and on and on and on. You're going to get a very, very warped picture of what's happening. So we'll keep getting those out to you. Like this text here about Hunter and how the therapist says that he was sexually inappropriate with his niece, and that he was smoking crack all over the house. Good indication that he's an addict, right? No, I don't know if this has been put in evidence. What are they sensitive about? I mean, if it's true, somebody should have helped this girl. And something was going on that should have been looked at, which wasn't. At the very bottom, he says, whatever the truth of all the rest of that about being sexually inappropriate and FaceTiming with her naked, and the bottom line is that I create and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids. But what could that be? You can just take a look at the pictures. filling up the whole room with crack, so the kids upstairs have to know what it is, right? Yeah, if that was your grandchild, you want the grandchild protected from that? Or would you just say, as Joe probably did, we're going to make a big fuss about it. It'll be very bad politically. Hell with the kids. That's a bad, bad situation. Very, very bad situation. I also think that if you focus on it, you'll realize that how hypocritical it is Biden with regard to the rest of the world. I mean, here he was favoring a bill that had turned and was putting a lot of people who were much, much less prolific in their use of drugs than Hunter in jail for 20 or 30 years, while Hunter Boy was sitting next to him, nice and protected. He was collecting all the money for Joe. And don't give me this, there's no evidence that Joe was getting money. That's the other text that I've shown you before, but want you to be reminded of. There it is, right there. Shall we show it again? I want you to be reminded of that, because when they say there's no evidence that Joe got money, there's evidence that he got a lot of money. This is what you call evidence. This is a statement by Hunter to his daughter around Christmas time 2018, in which he says, I love all of you, but I don't receive any respect. Sounds like Rodney Dangerfield. I don't receive any respect. And that's fine, I guess, works for you, apparently. I hope you all can do what I did. Now, let's lay out the payment terms and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Well, why was he giving him half his salary? Because the salary really was for Joe. That's what Hunter was. The way this family became multimillionaires was not inventing a product, not inventing software, not inventing hardware. They were selling influence, which is otherwise known as massive RICO bribery. And that's who you see in the front seat, members of that family, the Biden crime family. And it's as much a crime family as the mafia people that I prosecuted. Of course, different kinds of crimes, but crimes that have done great damage to the United States of America. Particularly the ones that are done in concert with our enemies, like Red China. So let's hope that there is justice, that we can straighten out Our Lady of Justice and have not a two-tier system of justice. As I say, please analyze what that means. A two-tier system of justice means no justice at all. Because if justice is different for one person as opposed to another person, and it has nothing to do with the strength of the case against them, then we're in real trouble. And we have to get together and we have to fight back as hard as we possibly can to make sure that's the kind of America we have. Because that's the kind of America we were given. And it's our obligation to give it back better than it was given to us. And we will. We'll make sure of that. Nobody's going to rest on anything. We've just got to make it a very, very important part of what we're doing. President Trump has switched positions on something. I think he's done it before, but they made a big deal out of it. But I'm glad he did. Basically, he's embracing the idea of early voting. He's embracing the idea of absentee balloting, if that's what you have to do. He still believes that the most secure form of balloting is on the day of the election, with paper preserved and paper that you're allowed to see, not hidden like they did in Pennsylvania and Georgia and other places where you had less than honorable people. But The main thing would be you could get the count right away, and then you could go back and check it. And failure to prosecute these people has given the impression you can get away with it. Well, you can't get away with it. And don't think that you can. This country is going to be back where it was. I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. But we need your help. And we need it now. In signing up for these organizations, making sure they're doing what they're doing, and making sure they don't drive the campaign crazy with requests that can't be filled, but work out intelligent working relationships, which we're going to count on you for. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. And we'll be back tomorrow at 3, and then we'll be on at 8, and we'll be on at 8 tonight. And tonight we're going to go into some of the other things that have been hidden from you, so that you can get a full picture of what the heck is going on, not just in Delaware, but in Washington and the rest of the world. A lot of challenges going on, and a lot of imponderables, because there are world leaders that see the passage of Biden as a good thing. At least they'll have somebody they can negotiate with who knows how to negotiate. Sometimes you want your adversary to be strong, because they can come to decisions that weaklings like Biden can't. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be on 8 o'clock tonight. It could be a big show tonight. So we're really hoping you tune in on X or wherever else you're watching us. You'll be able to get us tonight. And we'll give you the rest of the news that's not printed. Or printed in a different way, Well, I want to thank you very, very much for listening today. And I want to thank you all for the wonderful reception we've gotten. So let's say, God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people of the United States, and God bless America.
Road teaches